Is that Maneater Guy any good in patch 6.0? Mercenary Warrior, Eater of Men, Sacker of Towns, the Spoiler of Ad Revenue, the Ogre General whose name we YouTubers dareth not speak. So, how good is he as a general-purpose general? I've heard on good authority that in campaign he has little to want in terms of gold or meat, which means he's pretty much god among ogres, and makes a mockery of economic considerations in general, where the ogre economy was much improved regardless. Oh well, better than the sorry state things were before. Recruited by clicking on his beautiful portrait, on Ultra Scale he comes at 7,808 health, armor is 80, missile resistance the standard 15%, leadership 85, which is pretty elite, speed 54, charge speed 83, what we'd expect. Melee attack of 65 with an attack interval of 4 seconds is pretty good. Given some issues with the splash damage changes. I won't make this video about that, but his splash target size is medium and according to the stats, he should be getting 6 splash targets. Watch for future hotfixes and so on. Melee defense of 50 isn't anything special, but it's handy not to be worse. Weapon strength 550 is split between base 235 and armor piercing 315, so while it's tilted toward AP, it's not a radical tilt. He'll still do a lot more damage to low armor targets. Keep that in mind and you'll be fine. Moreover, he has a bonus versus infantry of a mighty 25, so all by himself, he's an infantry demolisher, and there's little reason for him to be shy about doing this to higher tier infantry. Charge bonus is a healthy 50 and mass is 2500. He benefits from the Ogre charge rule, causes fear, has wall breaker, important now that many Ogre units have had that stripped away, no great loss since its value to them plunged when walls got huge HP buffs, and has Vanguard deployment, an interesting twist. Since he doesn't get a mount, that's pretty much that. As a legendary lord, he's a mercenary for hire. He cannot actually ally with anyone. Note that vassals are considered alliances. Once per contract, he can teleport to the clan's settlement to get stuff done. His army gets plus 5 melee attack and immunity to psychology against contract opponents, and that's how it goes. As a general, Maneater grants post-battle loot plus 25%, minus 20% upkeep to all Maneater units, and the Dead Eye skill, a magic missile skill, which is really his whipping out a pistol. With 3 uses, 120 second cooldown, tiny damage radius, 1060 damage, of which 60% is armor piercing, and a supposed bonus versus infantry of 60, and if this card is to be believed, also a bonus versus large of 60 anyway, so yeah, whatever. It's for blowing Hume wizards' heads off. That's the idea. For his skill tree, I'm going to shamelessly point to my old Greasus video, because not a single thing about the blue, red, or yellow lines appears to be different. Don't take that as a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with these lines for ogres, not at all. It's just to say there's no point reinventing the wheel. Aside from the Noblar Rule 1-pip wonders, which again covered in the Greasus video, good little stuff, our focus will be on his personal lines, and then his legendary item. Available at rank 10, these 3 pips in the 3rd line are not mutually exclusive. He can greedily snap up them all. Greater Girth grants 15% bonus hit points, cumulative with whatever you snagged in the yellow melee line, and plus 15 armor. Impressive Wealth grants minus 15% to recruitment cost for units for his army, recruit rank plus 1, and local recruitment capacity plus 1. Keep Walkin' is 5% bonus campaign movement range, and 25% reduced fatigue buildup in battle, a nice little bit of help. At rank 12, you begin the very personal line, as I call them, where Mr. Maneater here gains the experienced killer trait, adding plus 50 to armor-piercing melee damage, not that he had a ranged weapon aside from his magic missile, and the been there, done that passive, whereas within 35 meters of him, a terror-causing enemy unit has minus 8 melee attack and 10% reduced melee damage, because this Maneater knows how to neuter his prey. Maneater Material makes him a master recruiter of Maneater units, adding plus 3 to recruit rank, cumulative with other sources. Maneater units get plus 5 melee attack within his personal army, and all Maneater units cause terror. Nice. Very nice. Iron Stomach reduces upkeep for his personal army by 10%, enables 5% bonus casualty replenishment for his army, and grants Mr. Maneater himself immunity to contact effects such as Frostbite, Poison, Discouraged, Sundered, and a whole host of others. Fight, Eat, Loot, Repeat, the cycle of Ogre life. Grants plus 20% extra post-battle loot on top of his prior bonus as a general, plus 10% meat after battles, and regains 20% campaign movement range after battles, which gives a limited version of your Torok's feel for campaigns. It's all good. Mercenary of Renown is a direct buff to regiments of renown serving in his army, granting them plus 5 melee attack and melee defense, and grants them Unbreakable, so they'll fight to the last Noblar. Or rather, Ogre. I want to say Ogres fighting to the last Noblar is pretty much what they do all the time. And finally, Easy Come, Easy Go grants... what the hell? 3 random abilities, but the abilities are lost after each battle. It says abilities via ancillaries. This sounds good, I just want to see a little bit of how it works before getting too far ahead of myself. Now, how about his legendary item? It's titled Bugman's XXXXX. I guess this is the kind of leader who thinks there's no problem copious amounts of booze can't solve. Providing his army plus 5% casualty replenishment on top of other sources, 15% less fatigue buildup, and leadership plus 5. Certainly it's solving quite a few problems. But the namesake ability has 120 seconds of cooldown, 18 seconds duration, 55 meter cast range. But what that actually means is that he can't be within 55 meters of an enemy unit to use this. And then it's a self-buff, so he can only affect himself, providing minus 1% fatigue each second and 1.7% healing during that time. This means you don't need to spend army abilities on keeping him alive. That's a ton of healing. So how do we use that mercenary guy in battle? It's astoundingly uncomplicated in the best way. He gets to pick his shots with Deadeye, becoming a force multiplier for any Ogre Pistols units he's packing, and in general just boss man-eaters even higher than the lofty perch they already occupied. Since you have an incentive to dial in regiments of renown, you might end up with a less uniform army than a Doomstack is meant to be, but nonetheless, you always come down to the option of wading into battle and smacking stuff around. There's no real weaknesses here, just a solid all-around package wielding copious amounts of grog. There's also no particular strength versus large targets, so however overwhelming he is against infantry units, at least have half a care for your anti-large measures. 2 things about the demo combats. I had him against an Exalted Keeper of Secrets to show the effect of been there, done that, but he lost that duel. It wasn't particularly close. Keepers are legit. He's going to need the help versus elite large target single entities, that's okay. It's a lack of strength rather than a weakness. The other thing is that I switched to Saber-Tusk packs against my Empire Red team because it was just Noblar trappers shooting in. Mr. Maneater was going to be wiped out. He's a big target. If enemies can focus him and him alone, he's in trouble. In an Ogre army rather than a Noblar army, this is less of a concern. Finally, I want to say that I like his animations. He's making a big mess of the enemy and his disruptiveness is pretty high. It's good enough, full stop. If I lose with this guy, it's because I messed up, not because he's deficient. But it also means that he's better at smacking around hordes than dueling per se, because infantry lords he's going to be knocking them down non-stop. But that's just the nature of the beast. In campaign, Ogres generally got a big rework, but he personally is the king of contracted killing. So go play the fantasy equivalent of Hitman. The methods you choose may be varied, but in the end, you're the one smiling and counting the ingots. Take care and have fun being the Ogre drowning in coins with a proverbial golden cigar in your mouth.